When you were still on Hyperliquid or DYDX, following all the big shots and getting wrecked, there was a group of people using code to make things work for them. They deployed a bunch of liquidation bots specifically to clear out your positions and rake in the fees from your liquidations. So why does this kind of business exist? Well, it's basically, can everyone do this, or are there some special requirements? Most importantly, is it profitable? Today, I'll dive into the details and uncover the secrets, and at the end of the video, I'll reveal the code for the clearing robot. Make sure to stick around until the end. I wanted to talk about this because I've noticed that on-chain activity hasn't been super high lately. In some of my previous videos, I focused on trading bots, like MEV and sandwich bots, and how to do arbitrage with them. But in the world of these gripper robots, the competition is really tough. If you don't have your own nodes and some solid hardware, just relying on software code isn't going to cut it. It's pretty unlikely I'll land a deal, so I'm wondering if there are any areas that people might have overlooked, which is why I thought of this. So, about this liquidation bot, why does this kind of service even exist? Well, we know that there are decentralized platforms like Hyperliquid or DYDX, and these protocols are specifically designed for leveraged derivatives. But the difference between him and some centralized platforms is that his whole system is built on smart contracts on the blockchain. And we know that smart contracts, you can't really execute something on your own without an initiator. You need an address for that. I need to trigger him to run the witness contract code so we can modify an order, create a new order, or close an order. I'm the one who initiated everything since I clicked that button with my wallet, but I set up an order while I was sleeping. Because the price is dropping and there's a need for liquidation, who's going to initiate that? Does it require a wallet to interact with the smart contract to liquidate me? This action, usually, it's all done by the platform's own bots. But when we talk about decentralized platforms, how can there be a centralized organization handling the clearing for everyone? That goes against the whole point of decentralization. So usually these platforms allow pretty much anyone to get into the business. You could say it's totally centralized or, if the entire founding team gets wiped out, this agreement can still be carried out by the community on its own. People can voluntarily check the current orders, and if they find that the order value is below the margin, they can trigger the liquidation process. If you liquidate someone, you can still earn liquidation rewards. So we've got this all sorted out. Just cleared up all our questions. And here's a chart I found while looking for various protocols with Grok. At first, I actually wanted to work on the Hyperliquid protocol, but then I found out that the liquidation rewards aren't given to the liquidation bots. They go to the whole Hyperliquid community instead. I think there's no need to build a Hyperliquid liquidation bot anymore. Then, I wanted to create a DYDX liquidation bot and found out they migrated to the DYDX chain in October 2023, which isn't EVM. Even though they officially provided the script code for the clearing robots, I personally wasn't familiar with Cosmos, so I gave up. The ones I stuck with are Compound, Aave, MakerDAO, and Venus. Those are the more well-known ones, and their protocols run on Ethereum and other EVM chains like BSC. I'm pretty familiar with this, so I can give it a shot and try to make their clearing bots. Plus, the info we found shows that their rewards are usually around 5 to 10%, and they don't have any open source bots either. There's still a bit of a barrier, but that also means there might not be many people doing it, so the competition isn't that fierce. Plus, given how popular Compound, Aave, and MakerDAO are, it might be pretty competitive out there, but I think the Venus protocol is easier to work with. As for the projects on the Cardano chain, there shouldn't be much competition there, since I haven't really heard of any applications on Cardano. Not many people probably use it, but let's talk about its profit potential and risks. So about that profit potential, all the platforms, both offer a clearing bonus of 3 to 10%. And in a highly volatile market, like back during the deer antler crash, you could see bonuses in the hundreds of thousands or even millions. But events like this are really hit or miss. It might not happen again for the next 10 years, or it could show up tomorrow. Who knows? Then there's also the lightning round. we can really cut down on the amount of money we need. For example, we just have to pay gas fees to join the liquidation. And then there are some low-cost options, like with BSC conditional stuff. Because it has lower get fees, it's great for small settlements. Even if you're dealing with a smaller amount of borrowing, after you settle it, there's still a chance to make a little bit of profit. It's a pretty small reward. And as for the risks, I think the biggest one is competition. It's not just me who can think of these things. Others can come up with them too. In chains where the fees are lower, the competition might actually be a bit tougher. If we can't snag the order, we end up losing the get fee. So then it could be a bit of a slip. And if during the liquidation, we get the other party's collateral and then sell it off. If the collateral gets sold at a loss, then we could also end up losing money. All right, that's Venus for you. The demo of the clearance robot is made by AI, so it's just for reference. When you actually run it, there will definitely be some issues. But there aren't any big issues, just some minor ones. Let's take a quick look at how it works. It's using Web3 dependencies, but not any others. They didn't even use a Turn.js. At first, they set up the BSC's RRC link, which is an RPC for the mainnet, or you can just use your own node if you want. I recommend using your own node. So when you come over, it's basically a private key, like our wallet's private key. You'd use it with this env. Store it in this environment variable. For sensitive files, we usually put them in this env. How do you write it? Like this. Sure thing. You can totally use single quotes here too. Now moving on, we need to get this Venus. The contract address is written here. This is the address for that contract, and this one is the address for V token, which is the address for the specific asset you want to liquidate. And also, we need to bring in the ABI files for these two contracts, since we'll need them for our contract instances later. Then we'll move on to the liquidation account. It's like having your own wallet. We just talked about how you need a wallet to execute this contract, and you also need a wallet to interact with the smart contract. So first, we need to get our wallet going here. For this contract instance, we'll import the address and the ABI into this control. In that approach, we can get examples of these two contracts. When the time comes, we'll need to interact with the contract, like querying some data from specific fields. Or you can submit the settlement, and then you come back to monitor the settlement function. This function is included in the startup bot. The very last line down there is actually what starts this function. The whole demo is mainly about this function, and inside this function, there's a white loop. And outside of that white loop, there's something called simulating the monitoring of multiple accounts. So the target accounts are basically the wallets we want to keep an eye on. So basically, we need to get this info dynamically, but they haven't set that up. We need to keep an eye on who's interacting with these addresses. So basically, whoever borrowed the money, whoever opened the warehouse, we scan it, and then we just need to add it to this array. That's it. So we keep going in this loop, looping over and over again. And what are we looping for? We're checking all the addresses we've added in there one by one. So did it really happen? This thing called insolvency, where assets don't cover debts. We can use that example from the contract we talked about earlier. There's a function called getAccountLiquidity that checks all the orders in the account. If the account shows that it's insolvent, then we'll go ahead with the liquidation. So before we execute, we need to write down some details about his position into a field, and these fields need to be calculated. Calculate the amount he can liquidate, then write it into the parameters for execution. This is part of executing and building the liquidation transaction hash. First, let's figure out the gas fee by calculating the gas price and the gas estimate. Once we have that, we can go ahead and send it out. So for the last loop, it checks every 3 seconds because the BSC blockchain has a block time of about 3 seconds too. That's how it is. The code you see here was all generated by AI. If anyone's interested, feel free to experiment with it yourself. Let me know.
For a structured learning path in developing Web3 projects on Solana and other EVM chains, make sure to follow our channel for more tech insights. If you'd like to join our bootcamp, head over to my Patreon. With a free subscription, you'll receive a Web3 project development learning blueprint, outlining the essential skills to quickly build your own dApp. See you there.